From Joakim Noah losing out on $2.7 million to Wilson Chandler getting suspended for 25 games. Here are some NBA players that got busted for PEDs.
A lot of hard work. I know the first time you came up short, the second time you got it done. And after seeing last year,
Starting with a person who got caught not once, but twice. It's O.J. Mayo. Have you heard about O.J. Mayo's suspension from the NBA? It's pretty wild. On July 1st, 2016, the league announced that he had been suspended for a whopping 2 years. That's a seriously long time, especially in the world of professional sports. The crazy thing is that the league didn't even release any details about what Mayo had done to earn such a harsh punishment. They just said that he'd committed some kind of infraction, but left everyone guessing as to what it could have been.
Memphis Grizzlies guard O.J. Mayo hasn't quite lived up to expectations lately. Mayo is currently serving a 10-game suspension for testing positive for a banned substance.
That only added to the mystery and speculation surrounding the whole situation. But later the news came out. He was dismissed and disqualified from the NBA for violating the league's anti-drug program. Apparently he had tested positive for a drug of abuse, which was a really serious violation. It was actually the first-time penalty of dismissal, which showed how seriously the NBA took these kinds of infractions. This wasn't the first time that Mayo had been caught either, because back in 2011, he tested positive for DHEA. Now, this was a banned performance-enhancing drug according to the NBA's rules. He was slapped with a 10-game suspension for that one, and when reporters asked him about it, Mayo said he didn't know that the substance he took had any bad stuff in it. He said he got it from a local gas station and didn't realize it was against the rules.
any substance that I would put in my body definitely needs to be checked out. By our training staff.
Yikes. And while this was bad, Joakim Noah's case was on a whole other level. Now, back in 2017, the NBA announced that the New York Knicks center had been suspended for 20 games for violating the league's drug policy. This was a big blow for Noah, who just started the first season of a lucrative 4-year, $72 million contract with the Knicks. Noah's suspension was split into 2 parts, with him missing the first 10 games of that season, and then the final 10 games at the start of the 2017-18 season. According to the NBA, Noah had tested positive for selective androgen receptor modulator, LGD-4033, also known as Ligandrol, which is a banned over-the-counter supplement. It's also worth noting, however, that a probe by the Players Union found that Noah hadn't knowingly or willingly violated the league's drug policies. Ligandrol is a testosterone booster that is not classified as a steroid, but it is banned as a performance-enhancing drug in multiple sports. Unfortunately for Noah, the suspension had a major financial impact, with rumors swirling that he lost around $2.7 million in salary due to the punishment. Yikes! Can you imagine that huge of a loss? It's a harsh reminder of the importance of following the league's rules and the severe consequences that can come from violating them. That said, this next player also lost out financially, similar to Noah. I'm talking about DeAndre Ayton. In 2019, the NBA announced that Phoenix Suns center DeAndre Ayton had been suspended for 25 games after testing positive for a diuretic. The timing of the suspension couldn't have been worse for the Suns, who had just won their opening game against Sacramento, with Ayton playing a key role by putting up 18 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 blocks. The suspension was a major hit to Ayton's bank account. Reports indicate that he forfeited over $2.1 million of his $9.6 million salary due to the punishment. However, Ayton wasted no time in apologizing for his mistake. In a statement, he said he wanted to apologize to his family, the entire Suns organization, his teammates, partners, the fans, and the Phoenix community. He also added that this was an unintentional mistake, and unfortunately, he put something in his body that he was completely unaware of. It looks like he was in denial. The Suns also issued a statement in response to the suspension, expressing their disappointment and emphasizing that the team had always strived to uphold high standards and principles. Now, Ayton wasn't the only player who recently faced a 25-game ban, because John Collins went through the same thing. In 2019, John from the Atlanta Hawks was suspended for 25 games for violating the NBA's anti-drug policy. The league had announced that Collins had tested positive for growth hormone-releasing peptide 2. For those of you who don't know, it is known to increase appetite. At that time, Collins was the 3rd player in that season to receive a 25-game suspension for using performance-enhancing drugs. Following Wilson Chandler from the Brooklyn Nets and DeAndre Ayton from the Phoenix Suns. The Hawks released a statement expressing their disappointment at the situation and acknowledged that John had put himself in an unfortunate position. However, they also believed that he was truly remorseful for his actions. In his own statement, Collins apologized for what he had done and expressed his frustration and disappointment in himself for putting his team in that position. Although it was not a great situation for John Collins or the Atlanta Hawks, they bounced back stronger later. And if you thought that was bad, check out this next player who was initially suspended indefinitely. Yes, you guessed it, I'm talking about Malik Monk. Now, he'd been playing some of the best basketball of his season, an average of 18 points a game over his last 5 games, and shooting 34.5% from 3 in that stretch. He even got to start after coming off the bench all season in 2020. However, things took a sudden turn when Monk was suspended by the NBA for violating the league's anti-drug policy. The league made an announcement about this, but they provided no more details about the violation in their statement. What's unusual about Monk's suspension was that it was open-ended. The league said that his suspension will continue until he's determined to fully comply with the NBA and NBPA anti-drug program. This means that there's no set time for how long the suspension will last, and it's up to Monk to comply with the program's requirements. Normally, a first positive PED test leads to a 25-game suspension, while it takes 3 positive marijuana tests to trigger even a 5-game suspension. So an indefinite suspension is pretty uncommon, and that's why it got so much attention. Monk didn't have any previous issues with the league's drug policy. Later on, he was reinstated, but he did end up missing a total of 8 games due to the suspension. Finally, I have another player for you who lost out on both cash and game. It's Wilson Chandler. Let me tell you about what happened to him back in 2019. So, the NBA announced that Chandler, who was playing for the Brooklyn Nets at the time, had been suspended for 25 games. He tested positive for ipamorelin, a growth hormone stimulant. But here's the thing, Chandler had a justification for this. He explained that during his injury rehab process, before he signed with the Nets, he was prescribed a treatment that included small doses of a substance that was recently added to the NBA's prohibited substance list. Chandler said that he didn't realize this substance was banned, and neither did his doctor. After the suspension was announced, he spoke out about the situation. He accepted responsibility for what happened and apologized to his Nets teammates, coaches, front office, and fans for his mistake. He also made a commitment to continue working hard to prepare for the upcoming season. And the suspension isn't all. He was also suspended and had financial consequences to face. According to ESPN's experts, the suspension cost Chandler $23,316 per game, and he ended up losing a total of $582,898. Jeez! Anyway, that's all I had for you today on NBA players who got busted for peds.